All right, I'd like to call to order a special meeting of City Council of the City of Perry on July 27th, 2020 at 5 p.m. Roll call, please.
Coldarn.
Here.
Bond.
Here.
Dilbeck.
Here.
Ahern.
Here.
Marshall.
Here.
White.
Here.
Morrill.
Here.
Wines.
Here.
Streller.
Here. I do declare a quorum. If you would please join me in a short invocation, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for the wonderful rain you gave us today. But more so, we thank you for being present in our city, in our town, and in each and every person that is serving on this council tonight. I want to thank you for providing us with the strength that we need to sustain our lives, our families, and the needs of this council and this city. I pray this in your son's name. Amen. All right. Item number 1. Conduct a public hearing meeting regarding the filing of an application for 50% reimbursement of land and water conservation fund grant to cover the eligible expenses for the construction of a splash pad to be located in Lions Park with Oklahoma Tourism and Recreation Department, a division of the State Parks and Federal Grant Division. Okay, this is a public hearing we'll have to hold in order to file this grant. And so if there's anyone that is present at this time, a member of the public or the member of the council that would like to make a statement, feel free to do so.
Is there anything Kristen or Melanie would like to say about it?
I just didn't know if you guys were ready to turn that over or not. Yeah, so we can go ahead and share our screen with you and just go through a few things.
Go ahead.
Okay, can you see that okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So, like you mentioned, we are applying for a land and water conservation matching grant. And part of one of the things that are required is to show that the public is supportive of this project and get their input. And so we thought this would be a great way not only update the city council, but ask for input from the city. And we posted it on Facebook and things like that. So we feel like this was a good opportunity to just open it up, provide an update on where we are, and get your input before we make some final decisions in time for construction to begin. So kind of backing up, Melanie, the committee met with City Council quite a few months ago to just talk about the project to kick it off. And so we just kind of wanted to revisit some of our thoughts and our goals. Some of the biggest drivers for this project has always been for the community to be able to come together, to have fun, have a place together, and gather and be healthy. And so we just kind of wanted to surface those ideas again as we talk about this project. So, like we mentioned, we are talking about doing the splash pad at Lions Park. There's a lot of different reasons why we landed at this site. One of the biggest ones is the existing facilities that are already there. So we've got the pool, the state park that we're close by, this playground, the pavilion, all of these things we made it a great location to build on. And so you'll see this is our kind of vision for the park long term. This itself right here in the middle will be the splash pad. Down the road, we would like to help locate the pavilion there and the bathhouse here and the bathhouse. We've got really good ideas that we're not project itself. So you kind of get a good feel for the location, the size of the park, or the pad that we're looking at right now, and just kind of give you some perspective of the overall project there. So this is a rendering of our proposed design. You'll see we've got some what they call kind of different interactive zones. So these for the little bitty children right over here, a little bit lower impact. This is kind of what they call high impact. So you have like you've got interactive features here, and then of course the shade-in seating for adults and break areas on the side. That gives you a good idea of what we're looking at doing. You know, we've talked around a lot of different ideas as far as themes and colors and all kinds of things like that. And really what it comes down to is we want to build the biggest park that we can to make sure that our kiddos are having a good time. We want to be good stewards of our money, and so whatever is going to get us basically the biggest bang for our buck is where we've kind of landed. There's a lot of different combinations of features and things that we felt like are important as us committee members go to other facilities and experience other things with our children. You know, there's a lot of different things that have gone into this design that we thought other people would enjoy as well. So then kind of going through this, what we call phase one. So we're getting to the point now where we've got a really good group of businesses and partners. We'll get into the kind of the list here in a little bit. But we've got a really great in-kind donation of all of the concrete that the splash pad is going to need. And so we're trying to figure out ways to get the structures and all the work done in place to capitalize on some of these in-kind donations before, you know, the companies that are kind enough to give us these get tied up with other projects or other things come up. And so we're just trying to figure out the best way to get that done as quickly as possible. So to do that, we're looking at a phased approach in that everything that you see here would basically look like a concrete pad, but everything that we need to make it functional as an actual splash pad would be there underneath the concrete. So we see this happening hopefully in the next 3 to 4 months. The concrete would be there, and then once we finish fundraising potentially through this grant that we're looking at right now, then we would come back with all the above ground features that you see here. So the canopies and the picnic tables and the tall features, that would be what we're considering phase 2. So I'm going to turn it over to Melanie. I think I stole some of her talking points.
So breaking it out into this two-phased approach, I just wanted to add a little bit more context to this as well. You know, Kristen touched on being able to capitalize on the in-kind donations from the generous donors in and around our community. Also to bring about some momentum and show, you know, that we're breaking ground. This is kind of coming to fruition. So that's why we broke it out into a two-phase approach, due to the fact that we would be applying for this water conservation grant, because we wanted to go ahead and get started without adding costs, go ahead and put concrete in, and then be able to add the features on it as we hopefully get awarded this grant as well. We will be continuing to fundraise as well in addition to applying for this grant. We have some other ideas in mind too. So what you see now is some of the project partners that we've partnered with already. So, I mean, we have seen a huge amount of support, and this doesn't even capture the long list of individual donors and other business donors that have already donated their time, contacted us and want to do in-kind donations and just want to help out when and wherever possible. So we really feel like that this has been a huge community project so far, and that it's going to be a great opportunity for us all to come together for a common goal. Do you want to go on to the next? So this will give a good overview of where we're at. I think in your memo that Dixie sent out, it kind of gave you an update as far as the amount of money that we've raised. We did get another big commitment just this past week that isn't incorporated into that either. So I wanted to kind of take you through the overall goal, where we're at, and then the phases and how much those cost. So overall goal initially is $350,000. So actually deposited in the accounts today, we're at $65,000. When you take into account the additional commitments from our business sponsors that haven't actually cut the check yet, if you think about that, the commitment that we received over the week, we're at $147,000. And so that phase one cost of all, if you think about all of the plumbing underground, the site work, the concrete, all of that is $148,000 for us to get started, for us to break ground. And so with the generous in-kind donation that we have of all of the donated concrete for the project, we are at $217,000 of donations and in-kind donations to put towards it. So we're almost there. We're going to be, applying for the remaining balance for this grant, the water conservation grant. Like I said, additional fundraising efforts are going to be happening from the committee side too, to not only get us to this 350 goal, but like Kristen said, phase 2, phase 3 of the park is on the horizon as well, where we're looking forward to what else do we do? What are other ways that we can raise money for the playground equipment? What do we want to do for the pool? All of those types of things as well. So that really just gives a good overview of, where we're at, the project in and of itself. I think the other thing that was mentioned in your memo was we have looked at the options of, different scales of the splash pad as well, because we don't want to solely rely on this one grant to get us to that initial goal when we have all of these generous donations and in-kind donations. So we have entertained the idea of, do you scale it back just a bit to be able to utilize all of the money we've raised? That's still on the table. We did want to go ahead and go through this process as far as the public hearing, the council update, since it is a requirement to the grant, just so we have that box checked at least. In the next coming weeks, as we turn in this grant application, if it comes to that we find out we aren't a candidate for it, then we're not going to be awarded this year, or if we just feel like we want to move forward without the grant for this project, then that's absolutely on the table, and we have talked to Craftsman about that as well and have those other site plans available as well. So I'd like to open it up for any questions or comments from anyone that's on.
I have a couple questions for you too, please. Whenever you showed phase 1, it showed like water coming out of the concrete there. Is that an idea that you were just going to have like there? If that's all you could get done, it would still be functional like that, and you can come back and put the devices in those holes later? Is that what you're talking about?
So we're kind of taking, I would say, the next couple of weeks to finalize the quote and the design based on a couple of other conversations. So we kind of have two options with this, and I think these next couple of weeks will determine. So we could either build a phase 1 that is operational. You just would not have any of those tall features.
Correct.
That would cost, we'll say it would be like $8,000 to get the actual controls built into phase 1. If we wanted to turn around and make it a non-functional pad and save that $8,000 maybe for a little bit later, then we could do that as well. Our intent is that phase 1 and phase 2 will both be complete by the time spring 21 comes around. So there's really no need for it to be functional because no one's going to be playing on it. But again, that just comes back to where we want to spend our money, in phase 1 or in phase 2. And we're definitely open to suggestions if you want it to be operational at this point. In that first phase, if something were to happen and we couldn't complete the project, which we don't foresee happening because we've already gotten so far in our fundraising. So we could definitely, I guess I'll ask the question to you. Do you want it to be functional in phase one, or would you be okay waiting with it for that
Well,
to be completed?
to me,
Because
to me,
reality-
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, in reality, looking at scheduling, you know, for phase one, talking to Craftsman, if we sign with them today, we are 2 months out on their calendar. And so, you know, you're getting into a time frame where realistically in our minds, we're thinking that the splash pad would be quote unquote closed anyways, or getting into that season where it wouldn't be used. So to save that money, you know, they call it a switcheroo. So basically you have all the guts underneath the concrete, and then the switcheroo that they install where it helps it shoot out water like you're seeing in the drawing. Then as we have the remaining funds that are donated for the actual feature, they come in, take the switcheroo out, and put the feature on top. So that switcheroo, the added cost of those is around the $8,000 is what we're trying to avoid by making it a non-functional at the moment splash pad. I wouldn't want anyone to think, though, that it wouldn't be you know, functional if you add a feature on top of it, because it absolutely would.
Yeah, that was my question, Melanie. That I was just curious if it was an added expense, and it is an added expense of $8,000. So, if in my mind, if it's not going to be functional, I mean, if it's not going to be done, completed, phase one's not going to be completed for 2 months. We're talking about, you know, well into September, pushing October, I would guess. And at that point, there's not going to be anyone there playing there anyway. So it makes more sense to me to have it functional when it starts warming up in the spring. This, I would encourage whatever they, and I'm sure you have, but you have holes in that concrete, and we need to secure that from the public, because I mean, we do have people that choose to damage things sometimes, you know.
They're basically caps that they'll go on. So when they do pour the concrete, you know, obviously that's not getting into any of the functionality of the piece. And so when we're ready to put the features on top, you just remove that cap, and then the feature just goes right on top. And we've definitely had the conversation of, you know, we don't want to go back and have to retrofit anything after this concrete is poured. We want it all to be ready to go, and exactly like we planned it. And so they're definitely prepared to, okay, this is basically a standard installation. We're just spacing it out over the course of 4 or 5 months so we can finish our fundraising.
Yeah, you don't want it to look like it was pieced together. I mean, you girls have raised, in your committee, I should say, has raised a bunch of money, and you want it to look, you know, as nice as you can. Part two of my question is the water itself. Does this water come straight out of a water plant, or does it have a treatment system like a swimming pool where you got to add chlorine and do things like a swimming pool would, or does this come straight from the water plant water?
Yeah, this is what they call a pass-through system, and so we did the research initially on the 2 different types of system, whether it's a pass-through system or a treated chlorinated, you know, they call it like a recirculated system. And so the pass-through system actually has less maintenance overall year to year, because you aren't, you know, that you don't have the chemicals involved. And then if you think about an instance where, like at the pool right now, or in years past, if there was a bodily fluid incident or anything like that, you have, you know, so many parameters around, you have to shut down for so long, retest the water before you can let anybody back in. So there won't be those issues either, and oversight that would have to be seen.
So you're saying this isn't treated at all? This is water that just comes straight from the water plant then?
After.
Correct? Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
From a water line.
Yeah,
out.
that'd be from our water plant. I was just curious if it had to be treated. I understood that there was 2 kinds of, there was a pass-through, and then also there was the one that retained the water, recirculated it. I just didn't know if you had to treat it for safety purposes before it came into this type of splash pad, but apparently it doesn't have to be.
No.
Council or anyone else that's on the call want to ask questions?
I do. So in your renderings here, we see the splash pad, but where will the equipment and the, I think you call them switcheroos and those things, be located? Pumps and whatnot?
So most of what they call their manifolds and controls are in kind of off to the side, and they are in ground. So most of them will be buried. I think there is maybe a small little, like what you would see on top of like a septic system or something like that, some sort of, manhole type thing. One of the features itself is actually what the kids activate the splash pad on. So you'll see this mushroom maze or whatever, what the name of it is. But on the top of that is actually like a baller that they come and they hit, and it actually turns all the water on. That is what will actually activate the splash pad. And, it'll run for 15 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it is, and another kid has to run out and touch that again to keep the water going. So that's what's gonna help us out on our water costs and things like that. So it's not running from 8 to 5 or whatever the hours we set, unless somebody goes up and activates it.
So it is,
I think there is a rendering, though, of there is like an electrical box that is above ground, and when we did the site plan with Craftsman and went out there, actually, I think there were a few locations that she actually looked at and said it would be a good location if you think about even back by, back there's an existing shed right there by the tennis court right now, by the facility, and where that would go. So when we were ready to get in there and winterize it or whatever we needed to do that here. The underground part of it would be above.
Now, is that, that little thing you said that hit to turn it on, will that turn on the whole thing, or will it just turn on like the little kids area and then there will be another one for the big kids area?
We can program it to however we want to do that. So a lot of times they'll do different features. There'll be a sequence, and so you won't necessarily know which one's going to, the kids won't know which one's going to come on because there's a sequence of features and times and things like that. And that just kind of keeps it interesting, helps with water costs and all those types of things.
Well,
Most of the ones that, sorry.
Go ahead, Melanie. I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, most of the ones that I've been to, if you think about like that little mushroom deal sticking up, if that's the actuator, which is what they call it, and they press on it, then you think about, there's different features that will come on at different times. So, if there's a bucket dump, it might be dumping water, and then as well as, you're able to do the shooters. And so, like Kristen said, it's just different sequences, and there's several different programs that we can put in there where it can make several different sequences. So it's not just like, oh, every time you hit this button, there's just one stream of water coming out. So it makes it fun for the kids, interactive.
Well, my thought was, and I haven't been one of these, so I don't know, but my thought was if a parent rolls up there with a 18-month-old kid and a 2-year-old kid or something, they just want to play in the little area, and we're wasting water in the big area.
Yeah.
That was my thought.
That was a conversation we had at one point with 2 different actuators. So maybe one would control like the little area, and one would be for the larger, more impactful areas. We kind of cut that out for budget reasons, but that's definitely something that we could put back in there if we felt like it was needed.
what was the cost on that?
Yeah, thank you, Derek.
Do you have this one?
I don't have a cost actuator. We do have an estimated cost of what water, usage and stuff per year would be, if you guys are interested in knowing anything like that.
Is that separated between the 2 sides? I think what we're kind of getting at, and I agree with Bill here, that if we could at all, if they're only going to be in the little kids area, it would be nice just to activate that versus the big kids area. I know a lot of times they're both going to be, but
It would be, we have to look at the cost versus the water expense, because we'll be putting out the city would provide the water.
Sure. Yeah, we will get the price of adding like an actuator. I mean, it's just something we'll have to look at, versus and work with Craftsman to understand, having to, how much water would you save or not, versus the cost, and we would just have to evaluate that.
Any other questions for the ladies?
I thank you for everything you guys have done.
You bet. We're excited. We feel like we see the end in sight for sure, at least for this phase of the project.
It
You
is
guys
great
raised a lot
job.
of money. Thanks.
It is great.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to make sure we recognize those partners you have, the community partners that stepped up and participated in this project, because it's outstanding.
Yeah, we are planning to have some signage, which we've actually, Derringers out of Florida, they've committed to donating the signage to recognize all of our other donors. So we're excited to be able to share that with the community and give them that bit of ownership.
Have we offered that to local business?
We've offered that to all local businesses, and we also have a mailer. So basically, anyone that donates $1,000 or more will have recognition. Once you get
I'm talking about making signage.
I believe we've had that conversation. Yeah.
I think Derringers actually just approached us though. But
I'll just encourage as much local partnership as we can.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course. Yep.
I agree. It's just, if they're going to do it out of the kindness of their heart, then I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, if there's no other questions for the ladies, we will move to item number 2, motion on adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, nobody go away after this, okay? Roll call, please, Dixie.
Okay, who was the second? I couldn't
Marshall.
tell. Okay. Colern,
Yes.
Bond,
Yes.
Dilbeck,
Yes.
Ahern,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Morrill,
Yes.
Wines,
Yes.
Streller.
Yes. All right, council, I'm going to open this up to Dixie. She's going to tell you how this is going to work. We're going to have another meeting right after this to approve the minutes of this meeting. Dixie?
Okay, it will be about 15 minutes. I just have to have time to finish these minutes. As soon as I finish them, I will email them out to all of you. So be watching your email, and then we can come back in roughly 15 minutes.
Thank you, council. Thank you, ladies.
Hey, so will that just be
I'd like to call a special agenda or special meeting, I guess, for the city council for the city of Perry, July 27th, 2020 at 5:38. Roll call, please.
Kildare,
Derek?
Did you not hear me?
No.
no.
Here.
Okay. Bond,
Here.
Dillbeck,
Here.
Ahern,
Here.
Marshall,
Here.
White,
Here.
Morrill,
Here.
Wines,
Here.
Streller.
Here. Item 1, acknowledge and approve minutes from the special city council meeting held on July 27th, 2020 at 5 p.m.
So moved.
I already said it.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Kildare,
Yes.
Bond,
Yes.
Dillbeck,
Yes.
Ahern,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White.
Here.
Morrill,
Yes.
Morrill,
Yes.
Wines,
Yes.
Yes.
Streller.
Yes. Item number 2, motion on the adjournment, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Give it to White.
Okay.
Roll call,
Kildare,
please.
Yes.
Bond,
Yes.
Dillbeck,
Yes.
Ahern,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Morrill,
Yes.
Wines,
Yes.
Streller.
Yes. Thank you, council.